Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, the government maintains diplomacy is key in the South China Sea.
So there are only two things we can do. Well, three. Prayer. No? And I'm praying every day. And I'm praying hard na may miracle na mangyari dyan na ma-resolve yung South China Sea. Now, the two other things we can do is diplomatic or go to war.
The president repeatedly insists we cannot go to war.
We cannot afford war. We cannot win a battle against China. And I would only lose maybe thousands of my troops and policemen.
This amid reports of militarization and the Chinese Coast Guard taking the catch of Filipino fishermen in Panatag Shoal.
Anong magagawa naming mangingisda doon kung magtitigas-tigasin kami doon? Para lang kaming doon, yung lata na pinitpit. Kumbaga, pasensya na lang.
And the acting Chief Justice fears China will take full control of Sandy Cay.
It's very important because if we don't control, if we lose Sandy Cay, we lose 1/3 of the territorial sea of Pag-asa.
But the government says it is doing enough to protect our rights. Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Cayetano joins us live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. Amid reports of China's ongoing militarization in the South China Sea and Chinese Coast Guard personnel taking the catch of Filipino fishermen in Scarborough Shoal, the Foreign Affairs Department assures the public that there have been ongoing negotiations to resolve the conflict peacefully. But should the government pursue another case versus China? And is Beijing the only threat in the disputed waters? Also, we get an update on the improving Philippine-Kuwait relations. And wait no more, because the DFA promises better, faster passport applications. Let's go straight to the source of the story. Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Cayetano. Secretary, finally.
Very happy to be here. Belated happy birthday
Thank
to
you, sir.
to Secretary Bongo, and in the US today, it's President Trump's birthday.
Aha! Tatlo pala kami. All right. Sir, finally, maraming salamat. I know you've been very, very busy. There's so much to talk about. Maybe it was really good timing that finally ngayon po kayo nag-guest. Umpisahan na po natin, the fishermen, the plight of the fishermen once again highlighted recently, sir, because of that GMA7 report. Their catch was taken by the Chinese Coast Guard. I just want to get it straight from you, sir. How would you describe that incident? Was it harassment, bullying, barter trade?
Quickly, no? You have to look at everything we're talking about the South China Sea in the context of the friends to all, enemies to none foreign policy of President Duterte. So our approach is principled yet pragmatic. So it's prudent, it's patient, but it's purpose-driven or oriented. So meaning, ano ba objective natin sa Scarborough Shoal at sa iba? First, yung fishermen makapasok freely. So, mismong ito, CNN report to noong 2016 na sinasabi mismo doon na 4 years embargo, hindi makapasok, di ba?
So we're talking about 2012, sir.
2012 to 2016.
Correct.
So, but they were saying in 2016, because of the Duterte initiative, nakakapasok na yung fishermen. So, yung problema, yung incidents, okay? But there are 3 more things that you need there. One, safety of life at the seas. Ito yung sinasabi ng fishermen na pag bumabagyo o malakas alon, it's safer to go inside the shoal.
Correct.
So we've negotiated that, and in fact nakakapasok, and there's been some storms where bigger ships were ushered in then to protect them.
Inside the shoal. The
Yes.
lagoon. Tama ba?
The lagoon,
Okay.
yeah. Third, yung environmental protection, no? Ecological, yung giant clams, yung coral, no? So we're negotiating that now. But yung loob ng lagoon, ang usapan namin doon, no one can fish there kasi spawning ground siya. Okay? Then lastly, and very important to us, oil and gas. No? So hindi na to sa Scarborough Shoal, but sa West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. So how do we characterize? We characterize it, we're diplomats eh. So of course, we will get the reports and factual yan. So kung ang gamitin ng word the fisherman ay harassment, ninakawan, etc. Kami, we characterize it as incidents. Then we investigate. Usually, we just get it from the Coast Guard, the National Task Force, or the military. But I sent an assistant secretary this time, so he went to Masinloc, Subic, and to Pangasinan, talked to them. Sari-saring story. Confirmed na meron talaga na binoboard, kinukunan. Meron din naman daw talaga barter. May dollar, may beer, may some kind alak, tubig, ganyan. Confirmed din na may mga nasisiraan, tinutulungan nila o binibigyan ng tubig. So these are being done to communicate to the Chinese side para they can discipline their side, as we are obligated to discipline our side. At maganda naman ang response, and the Chinese have told us they'll apply the law very strictly.
Okay. I want to get into the points you mentioned, but so you describe it as an incident. Do you describe it as an incident because you are the Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs, sir?
Yes.
Are you bound by that? Because if you were the senator I knew, you would hardly call this an incident, di ho ba? Okay.
As I said, we're diplomats eh. So ang trabaho namin, ayusin yung problema. And paano ayusin yung problema nito? To make sure that our fishermen today, tomorrow, and in the future are not denied any access at all and suffer no kind of incidents, whether it's theft, whether it's harassment, whether it's threats, or whether it's denial of help when they need it in the open sea.
So sana hindi mangyari muli. But some of the, well, siguro some people would call it theft. The Acting Chief Justice Antonio Carpio calls it harassment and theft. Kasi nga naman, papasok sa barko mo, titingnan yung catch mo, pipiliin yung pinakamaganda, tapos aalis. Para bang wala silang magawa. Do you feel, Secretary, na sa mga ganong insidente, wala hong choice ang mga Filipino fishermen?
Meron pong choice, no? So, in the last administration, yung tinatawag kong loud, but a lot of times losing, some gains but a lot losing, walang pag-uusap. So, during that time, walang Pilipino ang pwedeng pumasok sa Scarborough Shoal at mag-fishing. Ngayon, meron na. So, by telling us, telling the police, telling the media, nagpapasalamat kami sa media that these reports were up. But if you look at Facebook, we looked at some of them, hindi totoo yung iba doon. Totoo yung mga kinuna ng TV at saka yung kinausap ng mga mayors.
Yeah.
So, by doing this, we're now attempting to solve the problem. But it's the same with us, no? Ang Coast Guard natin, may napatay na Vietnamese fisherman, pero pumasok sa waters natin. But since we thought na masyadong harsh, pwede namang hindi fired upon, nakakulong yung Coast Guard natin.
So, because I understand, sir, that the Duterte administration has been saying, we're quite, I don't know, they said happy now dahil pinapayagan na po sila mangisda doon dahil, let's go back, 2012, sir, there was a standoff. That was the time during President Aquino, and then subsequently iniwan po yan dahil nagkaroon po ng kaso sa PC, the arbitration court, sir. So that happened. Hindi ho na pinapayagan yung mga fishermen, and then what you're saying right now is because of the Duterte administration and their friendship with China, pinapayagan ngayon yung mangingisda natin. Well and good, sir. Pero is that enough to say, pinapayagan yung mga mangingisda natin, pero kinukuha naman yung kanilang...
No, that's why we call it a tentative fishing agreement. Because in negotiations nung territorial at sovereign rights all around the world, matagal yan eh. Patience yan, no? For example, ang ginagawang malaking issue ngayon, goodwill daw ng China na pinapayagan. Hindi natin
Please
tinatanggap
react to
yun.
that, sir.
No, we don't accept that.
You don't accept that when the Chinese ambassador says this is a
We
goodwill
don't.
gesture?
And they know that we don't. Okay, but why did they say it? They said it because when President Xi and President Duterte talk, ano sabi ng dalawang leaders? It's very hard for us or impossible to go beyond our stand. So stand ng Pilipinas, atin yan. Stand ng Chinese, sa kanila yan. So either we don't talk and palakasan na lang and lugi tayo sa kanila, or we talk and we have a tentative agreement. But both sides will give their own reasons.
So it's a tentative, just for the record, it's a tentative fishing agreement.
And ongoing. That's why I'm saying prudent, patient, quiet kami magtrabaho, hindi sa microphone. But our Coast Guards are talking. This July, pupunta yung Coast Guard ulit natin sa China. Our military to military are talking. We're asking yung fisheries department natin, so agriculture to agriculture, fisheries to fisheries, mag-usap din.
So, did you tell the Chinese ambassador, sir, kasi nagkausap ho kayo, this is not supposed to be a good gesture of goodwill, but this is a tentative fishing agreement. Kasi parang sinabi ho, sir, please correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a tentative fishing agreement. Ngayon, if you ask them why, of course they will say goodwill because they cannot say because it's yours, then they will give up their position. In the same manner, sa atin, hindi tatanggapin ng Chinese people na kaya nandun ang fishermen dahil atin yun.
Bakit hindi din po natin sabihin, it's a goodwill gesture on the part of the Filipinos na pinapayagan yung Coast Guard na nandun, di ho ba?
We're saying the only reason you're there is because we're peace-loving, but that's ours. Never natin binabago yun. That's on the record. But
But you don't like it when he says, when the Chinese ambassador says it's a
And we
goodwill
put it on
gesture.
record that mali yun. It's just that hindi tayo nagsasagutan in public because we want to look at the totality of our relationship. No? I'll give you an example. May I ask anyone here who wants us to be more aggressive versus China verbally, no? Do you think we should have good relationship with Japan and with Malaysia? Kasi after the war, mga grandparents natin, sasampaling ka during that time, nananampal pa yung mga tao na nagpapalo ng kamay. Papagalitan ka talaga ng lolo't lola mo if you say that you want to be friends with the Japanese. But now we're more than brothers than Japanese and they're funding our infrastructure projects. Ganon din sa Malaysia. Just one generation ago, of course, we were kids at that time. There was even a planned invasion of Philippines to Sabah. Isang writer nagsasabi nito, and allegedly, some Malaysians were funding the rebellion in the south. No? But now, despite our dispute sa Sabah, may OFWs tayo doon. We have a lot of engagement, a lot of trade, a lot of tourism. We're brothers in ASEAN. So how come the Filipinos before were able to put on one side yung dispute with Japan and with Malaysia, but then na-harness yung relationship? So ang gusto lang naman ni Pangulo, ilagay natin dyan yung
Itabi muna natin.
issue. Hindi itabi. Dito natin ilagay saan natin pag-uusapan yan. But don't let it affect ang usapan natin sa tourism, usapan natin sa agriculture, usapan natin sa peace sa region. Why? We're neighbors eh. Kung singlayo ng EU yan o Amerika, kahit mag-araway tayo araw-araw verbally, walang epekto sa buhay ng tao eh. Pero pag neighbor mo, Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei, China, pagkaaway mo yan, sobrang apektado kabuhayan ng tao.
Okay, pero pagkabuhayan ho kasi yung pag-uusapan, babalik po tayo dun sa mga fishermen. So I understand that you sent a team. I want to talk about that, sir. But yung ginawa, I want to know from you, you said it's an incident. Was it harassment, sir?
According to the fishermen, it's not widespread, but it's also not isolated.
So nangyayari.
And sabi nila, yung iba, pag naglabas daw ng noodles o naglabas ng pera, payag na rin sila. Yung iba, gusto daw nila. Yung iba, tingin nila baka lalo na. But pare-pareho sila na sinasabi, sa laki ng kita nila, kasi rich talaga sa fish, maliit na amount to. So when we asked them, no, kasi we told them, hindi totoo walang Coast Guard. Gusto nyo bang palapitin? Hati sila eh.
Why?
Kalahati nung fishermen sabi, oo, para mabantayan. Kalahati, not 50-50 I'm just giving you the anecdotes during that time. Yung isang grupo, sabi niya, sir, nung dati, nung nagkakagirian yung dalawang Coast Guard, kami naipit, hindi kami pinapayagang mag-fish eh. Buti na rin to, pabayaan mo na rin.
So ano ho yan eh, iba-iba ho yung kanilang pananaw on this,
Yes.
di ba? But I guess one of the questions would be, do we need to demand an apology, sir, probably from China because of the incident?
No, you have to differentiate the policy of a country from an action of one of its agents, no? So, for example, tayo, dahil nakapatay, 'di ba? So, I was there with the Vietnamese foreign minister when I told him, I'm sorry this happened.
Yes.
But I want to share and we're doing everything and will ganyan. So hindi na sila nag-ingay ng protest or etc. But they said, of course, we have to say that this is unacceptable.
Okay.
Diba? Because citizen nila yon.
All right.
So in the same manner, the Chinese ambassador already said,
What did
they
he
will
say, sir?
investigate
Yes.
and
They will
apply
discipline.
and they will discipline and apply the law. So since positive ang direction,
Yes.
now if it keeps happening, ibang usapan yon.
Okay. All right. So are we going to demand an apology? Yes or no, sir?
I don't think so. I think they've apologized. I mean, in their investigation, then they will apologize.
Okay, so right now we're not
Depende sa
demanding
ano.
an apology on that. All right, we'll be taking a short break. This is a source on CNN Philippines. We'll continue our discussion on the South China Sea dispute. Also, the state of Philippine-Kuwait relations and improving passport applications. Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Cayetano will still be with us after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Cayetano. Sir, yung tentative fishing agreement, was this verbal? Was this written? Ano ho yung...
Verbal, it's a consensus between President Xi and President Duterte, and then the MOFA, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the DFA is working out the details. And then now we have a formal mechanism, the bilateral consultative mechanism, which has 22 different subgroups. Yan yung fisheries, yung AFP, Coast Guard, lahat ng mapag-isipan mo.
Sir.
And anything from the arbitration award through UNCLOS, through incidents, are all discussed in that BCM. Puwera pa yung high-level engagement between me and my Chinese counterpart, between President Duterte and President Xi Jinping.
Sir, so tentative fishing agreement, nag-usap po yung dalawang presidente, nag-usap po yung Foreign Affairs Secretary, pero wala pa hong, nothing is written.
Nothing.
Okay.
Yes.
Sir, what else is part of that tentative fishing agreement? So, the Filipinos can enter, can fish in Scarborough Shoal. Can they enter, kayo na lang hong magsabi, ano pa ho ba yung nakapaloob dun sa verbal tentative fishing
I'll
agreement?
take a step back. Okay, when President Duterte came in, Philippines was speaking loudly, and maybe correctly so at that time, against China and harnessing public support and internationalizing the issues. And China, on the other hand, was gaining on the ground. From us completely controlling Scarborough, they completely controlled Scarborough, no? And then, of course, yung buildings and everything, no? And tayo ang pinaka-kawawa dyan, eh. Because of all the claimants, tayo lang ang talagang, and Brunei, ang hindi nagmi-militarize. Tayo lang ang nagbi-build just for the civilian population, no? I think tayo na lang ang walang submarine, eh. No? So,
na hinihingi ngayon ng Navy, pero iba usapan yan. Okay.
So what President Duterte did, no, nung umpisa, no, we talked with the Chinese counterparts and said, what do you want? Tinanong namin, and they asked what do you want. And they said, our stand has never changed. One, let's talk in a bilateral setting. Let's not internationalize issues that are between the Philippines and China. Let's be fair, ganyan. So we said, what does President Duterte want? One, we don't want any of our features, no incidents, meaning Second Thomas Shoal, yung Ayungin, di ba? We should be able to bring food and supplies to our soldiers
Opo,
there.
okay.
Pag-asa, we should be able to bring supplies.
Cut you, sir. So yung sa Ayungin, ano ho ba talaga, bago ko makalimutan ang nangyari doon? Naharas ho ba talaga tayo because just
There
the
was
last incident?
There was an incident.
And sir, let me just bring this in before I forget. You said that the president knew about this, and the president in a press conference said he did not know about this. Ano ho ba talaga yung storya
No,
doon?
ang ginamit kasi ng reporter, sir, may hinaras eh. You know, the president receives growing number of reports every day and sends out orders every day. And nung panahon ni President Aquino, halos every day or every week or twice a week, may incident. Sa Duterte administration, yung tinatawag nating incident na ganun level, dalawa lang in 2 years. But sila, Congressman Alejano, aside from categorizing it as, you know, as much worse than it seemed, no, is spewing out lies na wala na kaming patrols, na yung Sandy Cay na wala na sa atin and everything.
Pag-usapan natin yan later,
so,
sir.
Basically, for the last 2 years, walang nagiging problema sa pagdala ng supply sa Ayungin or Second Thomas Shoal, no? This time around, there was an incident, no, which our military thought that should not happen kasi it might be a little bit
So,
dangerous
anong
to
nangyari,
both sides.
sir? Ano bang nangyari?
Yung, para ma-describe ko sa ating mga kababayan, every single day, pag may dumaan na ship ng ibang lahi, tatawag tayo, you are entering Philippine territory, ganyan. Ganun din sila. Pag may ship tayo, you're entering Chinese territory, you're entering Vietnamese territory. So normal na yon. But minsan, you position ships or may helicopters or may Coast Guard. So syempre, unlike sa kotse na sanay tayo, sa dagat, it can be dangerous sometimes if you position ship. That's why the standoff in Scarborough happened, no? So basically, there was a miscommunication
Between whom and whom?
between China and the Philippines. And apparently they were concerned na baka mag-build tayo. 'Di ba? And the reality is, 'di ba? Hindi. And even if we wanted to, ibang usapan 'yon. So, na-clarify naman kaagad.
Anong nangyari, sir, doon? What happened nung nagkaroon ng
Wala lang.
misunderstanding?
Usapan lang ng China at saka ng Pilipinas.
Yeah, but didn't we just say we're just going to resupply?
Yes.
But to me, sir, isn't that something that the Chinese would know because the Philippines should resupply the BRP? Hindi ho ba?
But this was a different kasi we were going to fix the facilities kasi kawawa yung mga soldiers, hindi sila komportable. So
they thought it was more than resupplying?
they thought
Ganun
we were
ho ba?
going to build and everything, no? I'll take a step back again, no? Remember, kailan ba nangyari yung standoff Scarborough Show? 2012?
2012, sir.
Election sa US. And that's where President Obama won re-election. And the US at that time did not draw a line na pag hindi nag-work out yung inyong sa standoff and withdrawal, will help you na. So ano nangyari? Nag-decide si President Aquino through the advice of Senator Trillanes, dahil siya nagba-back channel sa China noon, na wag na lang bumalik doon. Kahit nang usapan, parehong umalis. No? So 2016, when President Duterte came in, election na naman sa US.
Okay.
And President Obama was still the president.
Okay.
And at that time, there were already hints and sa media lumalabas na that they're going to build in Scarborough Shoal or attempt to take out our ship sa Ayungin. Diba? So what happened? Because President Duterte came in, nag-usap sila. Huwag niyong gagalawin ng mga posisyon ng Pilipinas at meron din naman silang mga wish list, no? Na katulad nga ng let's not internationalize this. Their military, I can't speak for their military, but ang analysis namin is they wanted to already do that time kasi that time na nag-election ng Amerika and the Obama administration refused to draw lines, no? But now it's different with President Trump, and President Trump is a person who can negotiate but who also draws a line.
All right. So, sir, so yung incident na yon, did the president know about it really, sir? Ano ho ba nangyari? Kasi nga nagkaroon ng miscommunication. Secretary Cayetano saying the president had ordered to look into this. Tapos sinabi po ni Presidente hindi niya alam.
Sa Congress kasi, nireport namin na lahat ito nire-report namin sa Pangulo. And parating sinasabi sa amin ng Pangulo, basta't sa sundalo, huwag kayong papayag na maapi. Kung may sundalo, bring it
Sorry,
up
sir.
right
So the
away.
point is, posibleng hindi nabasa ng Pangulo. Yun yung sinasabi niyo?
No,
Ganun ho
I'm
ba?
saying, nung sinabi nung reporter, harassment, mga 2-3 times a week, may different reports kami in different parts of the country and everything. He just
the president.
arrived from, no? So only the president, if I was there, I would have showed him, and then
Sir,
he
ito.
would have said which one is that. No?
All right.
So I think, nagka-miscommunication. That's why Secretary Roque, di ba, had to say. But we have a lot of, minsan pati sa command conference, we have a lot of meetings.
Okay.
Minsan sa command conference, minsan sa cabinet.
Okay.
Alam mo, last cabinet, joke ko nga, lalagyan na sa CR ng bawal tumambay dito. Kasi pag CR ni Presidente, so pause muna yung cabinet. Mga 5-6 kaming nakapila sa labas ng CR para makausap siya for 2 minutes. So, of course, if you ask the President, did you meet on this, etc., and unless you had a full
So
discussion.
anyway, there was a
cabinet.
miscommunication. Sir, pasensya na ho kayo because ang dami natin pag-uusapan. Very quickly, sinabi ho kasi tinweet ni Senator Bam Aquino, dapat maghain tayo ng formal na protesta ang pamahalaan laban sa ginawa ng Chinese Coast Guard sa ating mga mangingisda. Pero kahit sorry, hindi man lang hiningi. I'd just like you to react to that, sir.
We always take diplomatic action. Now, the Aquino strategy, as I said, is loud, but walang anong end mo. So kung ang end nila Senator Bam at nung dating administration, mas siga tayo sa China or assert our rights, that's their choice. But what result did it end up? Walang nandun. Tayo ang natin, usap. Of course, kung pabalang ang sagot sa akin ng Chinese, that's all right, we farmers, I would protest strongly and raise my voice also. But when they said, that's not permitted, that should not happen, I will investigate. Diba?
Yeah.
So,
That was enough.
So, will I say, you apologize right now, don't investigate. You tell me, is that the way to do diplomacy?
Yeah.
So, before that, ang tweet ng mga nila Senator Bamina, who are my friends by the way, no, is that I should file protest.
Yeah. So
and then when I said I filed protest, they said you should have a strong protest. Then when I showed na strong yung protest, you should have many protests.
So, okay, just to be clear, did you file a protest against this incident with the Filipino fishermen and the Chinese Coast Guard?
Not a verbal, but we had several communications with the Chinese on this, and they're now investigating.
So there's a written protest, sir. Tama ho ba?
No.
Sabi mo not verbal.
No. This is not legal. Sa diplomacy, a verbal and a written have the same standing.
Really?
Yes.
So
you have a protest because you want the other country to change its action. Diba? It's
So
not a claim.
What did you file?
No,
did you file a protest against
we
this?
talked to them.
Talk.
We took diplomatic action. That's what I'm telling the critics. We're purpose-oriented. So what's our purpose? To get our fishermen
Right.
there.
And may end
To
result
protect
kayo.
our,
But still
so
people...
If today, what's more effective is me talking to them, if tomorrow what's effective is the president talking to their president, if the next day more effective, we put it on record and file
That's
it.
what you're going to
That's
do.
what we're going to
So
do.
what you did right now with regards to the fishermen is a verbal protest. Tama, sir?
Yes.
Tama, sir. All right. We'll be taking another short break. This is The Source on CNN. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano. Sir, there's a tentative agreement, a verbal tentative agreement. We can fish there. Ano pa ho ba? Para lang mabilis, can we enter the lagoon? Can the Filipino fishermen enter the lagoon? Can the Chinese fishermen enter the lagoon?
No one should fish as of now dahil spawning ground siya. But when there's danger, mataas waves, may bagyo, they're supposed to even help us. No, and everyone, yes.
Ngayon, sir, after this incident, kung magkaroon na naman ng incident na kinuha yung catch ng mga fishermen, paano?
We're working on that now, no? So, give us a few days and a few weeks kasi nga, ang laki ng ocean eh. Iba-ibang lugar yan. If we put all of our Coast Guard there, paano yung iba nahuhulugan ng drugs? Ngayon, ang taas ng presyo ng langis. So, yung smuggling ng langis, pwede na naman mangyari, terrorism and everything.
So, are we still patrolling
Yes, we are.
the West Philippine
And this
Sea?
is the first administration that doubled the budget of Coast Guard from 6 billion to 12 billion to improve our capability.
Yeah, times 2 nga
To
daw. Sir,
13 billion.
Congressman Alejano is saying that the President ordered the AFP to stop patrolling the West Philippine Sea. Let's just bring in that statement made by Congressman Gary Alejano.
I received information that the Duterte administration ordered our armed forces not to patrol West Philippine Sea anymore.
Sir, totoo ho ba yan?
Complete lie. It's complete disinformation. I don't mind critics. We're not saying that we're perfect. Going along in finding our purpose, baka there's something we can do better. The career officials are there to advise us. But to tell a lie, to say that we stopped the patrol, to say that we lost Sandy Cay, to say that silence is acquiescence. No? It's a double lie actually in silence is acquiescence because one, we're not silent. We are filing. And number two, even if we were, that's why in that hearing, no, which hindi na highlight, I asked Congressman Alejano because one congressman asked, China lang ba ang may feature inside our EEZ and then that's militarizing? And I had to be truthful.
And what did you say,
I
sir?
said
Is
no.
it just China?
No, I read the features held by Malaysia and Vietnam. That's Congress. I cannot lie to Congress. Then I asked Congressman Alejano, but sir, ba't hindi nyo protest yun? They've never asked us
So
to
what you're saying,
protest.
Secretary, is meron din, nag-militarize din ang Vietnam at, did you say Malaysia, sir?
I'm not going to use the word militarize.
Okay,
kasi
what
that's
word
a
will you
big
use, sir?
issue. But they asked me, no? Are there features inside or China lang?
Inside the EEZ, ah?
REEZ. There's about 11 sa Vietnam and at least 4 or 5 sa Malaysia. And they also have defensive systems or weapons on it. So of course, people are all saying, so if you ask the Americans, it's the Chinese who are militarizing. Ito, mga authors nagsasabi nito, by putting weapons on the islands. If you ask the Chinese, sasabihin nila, it's the Americans militarizing by bringing in huge Navy ships with sophisticated weapon system. So what's the truth? The truth is only the Philippines and Brunei is for complete demilitarization of the area.
Because the Philippines and Brunei have not built, tama ho ba? Is that correct
And
to
we
say?
don't-
Any features?
Well, we don't want to spend our money on that. We want to spend it on food, on education, on health, and
So,
everything.
sir, let me ask you this. If sabi ni Congressman Alejano, meron siyang network of intelligence, even inside your office, sir. So, can you just prove to us or tell us, sir, how, when do they patrol and where?
Yes. If you remember, before the show, because I asked the President for some leeway in showing, I showed you the pictures just taken this March, no? And marami yan. I'll try to get authorization from the military and police to show, and the President to show you more. But kung wala kaming patrols, de wala kaming pictures. Remember, sinabi niya, stop the AFP. The AFP has the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy. So, nagpapatrol ang Navy, nagpapatrol ang Coast Guard, nagpapatrol din ang Air Force.
Tatlo yun, sir,
Kompleto
ha?
yun.
Okay.
Kompleto yun. Kaya sabi ko, kay Congressman Alejano and Senator Trillanes,
Yeah.
talk is cheap eh. So ako, kung tama sinasabi nyo, not only will I resign, I won't run ever and won't accept any appointment. But are you willing to do the same?
But here's the thing, sir. Talk is cheap. Why can't you show it to us? What is so top secret about what you showed me earlier? Pinakita naman ho talaga sa akin ni Secretary. And showing it to the public because the people want to know. Are you patrolling? Is the Philippines patrolling
They
it?
want to know, but I have to balance that with, do they want the results or do they want to know?
No, but
we're
it's-
under negotiations. We're doing a lot of
Sir,
things.
what's wrong with patrolling? Showing the people that we are patrolling? I don't understand it, sir.
The critics will not stop at that. Huh? They'll say, first of all, do you want to show the rest of the world, all the other claimants, where we patrol, what kind of boats we use and everything?
But sir, I'm sure they have an idea. They have satellites too, hindi ho ba?
They have an idea.
They're so sophisticated.
Well, no country in the world does what they're asking me to do.
Yung-
Secretary
yung-
Mattis was asked about our relationship and whether the U.S. will help in details. And he says, we don't discuss that in public. That's why diplomatic negotiations worldwide is an exemption to the freedom of information. Nagde-negotiate ka eh. So, parang binibili mo kotse ko, and then kapatid mo sasabihin, 1 million papayag yan si Pinky. O edi damage na yung room mo for negotiating.
Negotiation for any
Yes, yes.
elbow room to
Yes,
negotiate.
yes.
So ganito, sir, just tell us how or who, o sinabi mo who, it's Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. Yes, sir.
Yes,
How often and where, sir? Because we're just not, okay.
How often? Very often, as needed. And maybe the military will be in a better position to answer that. But my point is, it's actually the critics, and of course the media, that's your job, to ask the details.
Yeah.
But the people, most of the people, even in the surveys, even when we talk to them, they want the results.
Yeah.
You don't ask people how you make the sausage. Titikman mo yung sausage at masarap ba yung sausage. But kung paano ginagawa yun and everything,
Yeah, but
they leave it.
But the government should, I don't know, maybe should is not the right word, but government can respond to such allegations that there is no, that the President ordered the AFP to stop patrolling.
No, we
That's
answered.
huge, sir,
We
di ba?
answered.
Yun na nga.
We answered. Anong headline nung isang dyaryo? They denied it and did not elaborate. If it's a lie, how can you elaborate pa? But let me ask you this. Does the US, does Japan, does Korea, does Malaysia, does Vietnam, does China do what the critics are asking us to do.
So anyway,
they won't even tell you ilan protest or ano
so
specifically
yun ang
protest.
pag-uusapan natin next. So there's no truth, as you're saying, to the president ordering the AFP to stop patrolling the West Philippine Sea and
They simply want us to change our approach and follow the Aquino approach.
all right, we'll be taking another short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. Sir?
Everywhere I go, ginaganong ko siya.
Alright, pinag-uusapan mo namin ni Secretary Cayetano na hindi kami sanay na yung diplomacy approach because this is not the kind of senator we knew from the past. But anyway, it's a different job.
I think that's a different job. This is the President's direction. If you ask me, I do the Aquino thing.
Which?
ASEAN, UN, any SIGA, saying we'll stand up to you, etc. Pero what will happen? Our fishermen can fish, our agricultural products will not enter the market, our tourism will not be that, So, we're result-oriented. To talk is easy. And by the way, if that kind of action would give these results, I'd do that kind of action. So
But it won't.
There's
Yes.
always been a debate sa DFA and all MOFAs,
so
whether they call it engagement, versus a more aggressive stand.
Okay.
Before President Aquino, this problem has been there. A lot of people don't know. 3 generations na halos tong problema to. President Cory and Chairman Deng talked about this problem.
Okay.
But it was during the second half of President Aquino's when they said, no, we'll go all out.
So ito ang tanong ko sa inyo, sir. Was the arbitration a good thing or a bad thing? That the Aquino administration, that we protested this.
We had a lot of gains. There are some losses. No? And we never said that we're judging the past administration.
But you are, sir.
No,
You always compared, sorry, sir, but
Yes.
during the
Yes.
administration.
Yes, but I've always said we're telling you factually what they did and what the result was. So if we were in that position then, I don't know what we would have done. And what I'm saying is that we're not judging it, but they keep telling us to do what they did. And what they did won on paper but lost on the ground.
So, was it a good thing or bad thing? I guess both ang sagot mo,
Well,
no?
it's if you ask the experts outside the Philippines.
I'm asking you,
The
as Secretary.
experts outside the Philippines told me, Secretary, who's the biggest winner in the arbitration award? I said the Philippines. They said no. Then they gave me a name of another country. Then they told me why. And my point siya. So like Scarborough, we used to arrest Vietnamese and Chinese fishermen.
Until
We did not
standoff.
ask the arbitration court to say it's in our EEZ. We told them it's a traditional fishing ground. So ang ruling nila,
It
it's
is a traditional fishing ground for Chinese, Vietnamese, and Filipinos.
But that wasn't our position on the other features which we asked
Yeah.
them to declare inside our EEZ.
But then, exactly, sir, that's what people are saying. China should know that it's a traditional fishing ground for Filipinos, Chinese, and Vietnamese. Free for all, yung tatlong nationalities, sir.
That's our stand. And I believe in our stand. So, but can I go up to the features where there are Malaysian, where there are Vietnamese, where Taiwan as a province of China and Chinese, and say there, kami tama, you leave.
So that brings us to the next question, sir. On a condensed version, ilan ho ba talaga ang final na protest? Kasi ang alam po namin na often said is a note verbal. A note verbal to me is a written protest. Please correct me if I'm wrong, sir. That you forward, that you send to a country that you have an incident, an issue with. Since you sat as Secretary of Foreign Affairs, sir, how many note verbals have you issued or sent because of the South China Sea dispute? Wala pong iba.
When I became Secretary of Foreign Affairs, I told the media, we will not announce specific diplomatic actions because we will not engage in microphone or megaphone diplomacy.
Yes.
Now, sinasabi ko parati kay Congressman Alejano and sa aking kaibigan, kay Senator Trillanes, GMP. I-google mo, pare. kasi they keep saying, ang verbal, hindi daw protest yon. But wala sa diplomatic community all around the world. They're saying protest can be in any form and substance. It can be verbal, it can be written. A note verbal is a less formal, it's a third-party note that's initialed from ministry to ministry. No? But the highest is president to president na nag-uusap at naka-record lahat yon. There's also a more formal letter of the foreign minister to the
Foreign Affairs Secretary.
So marami yan.
Okay.
So what I can tell you is not only are we taking all diplomatic action, but we've filed dozens of protests.
So when you say dozens and dozens of protests, that's verbal and written. Tama ho, sir.
That's in
Okay.
the BCM, that's in bilaterals, that's
Dozens
in
and
multilaterals,
dozens. Sir,
etc.
so dozens and dozens, just tell me, is it, have you filed about 50 verbal and written? Because you don't want to distinguish, sir. Since you sat as Foreign Affairs Secretary, nakailan lang ho ba?
Honestly, I didn't count.
Would it be more than 50? I mean, an approximate, sir?
Of both verbal and
And written?
yeah.
Because you don't want to
Yeah,
distinguish
yeah,
both.
yeah.
What, sir? What's yes?
More than 50.
More than
definitely.
50 na po.
Yeah.
Okay. Sandy K,
For example, bilateral consultative mechanism. Okay, that we have had 3 already. So when we're talking and say that we're protesting this,
Isa na
we're
yun.
protesting this, we're
Pangalawa na
protesting
yun.
this, protesting this. O, ilan protest yun? So doon tayo nililigaw eh. Nung mga critics na parang if you don't do anything, binibigay mo na. No? That's not true.
Okay.
The protest is being done so that the other part will change their action.
on it. Okay, Sir Sandy K, ano ho ba talaga ang sitwasyon sa Sandy K? We had acting Chief Justice Antonio Carpio. Sabi nga niya po, it's quite technical, but dahil nga po, Sandy K used to be sandbar, 50% submerged, 50% up because of the dredging of Subi Reef. Yung corals pulverized, inakyat, I'm trying to make it simple, inakyat na lang po si
Sandy K.
Si Sandy K. And now, ganito na lang her. Sino who has control over Sandy K right now? Because that's 1 or 2 nautical miles, I believe, from Pag-asa.
Tayo. There's no one built on Sandy Cay. It's an uninhabited. And katabi siya ng Pag-asa, so we're free to patrol there. Our fishermen can go. But all the others, no, Malaysia, Vietnam, China, etc., no, don't want us to build there because we have a DOC. And the DOC said in Section 5 that everyone after 2002 should not build on the uninhabited. So any one of the claimants who builds uninhabited, everyone else. That's why we're now
Why are they
negotiating
saying
the COC.
it's being controlled by China, sir? Because even Congressman Alejano was daring you, pumunta tayo
Because
doon.
they're liars. They're liars. They're trying to take down the government and they're lying left and right
Then
about
here's the
it.
thing, sir. Congressman Alejano was saying, challenging you. Pumunta tayo sa Sandy Cay. Sabay tayo. Tingnan natin kung do you take on that challenge?
Congressman Biazon asked me, can we, Congressman, go to Pag-asa? Sabi ko, sir, we report to you. You give us your budget. Congress kayo. Appointed kami. Of course, you can go there anytime. But, is it prudent? Is it time for you to go? Because if you go, what if Malaysian parliamentarians go to the features they control? What if Vietnamese go to there? What if the Chinese go there?
But what if
Do
they-
you want that argument?
But what if ibalik sa inyo yung argument, was it prudent for the Vietnamese to build, for the Malaysian to build, for China to build? What if they say that to you, sir?
It wasn't. And it was more prudent if we guarded that now. Pero hindi natin nagawa before. Eh.
Yes.
No, but what I'm saying is that everyone is trying to lower the temperature para makapag-usap sa COC. Now, it's either we want the COC or we want makipagsigawan. And the reality is may geopolitics here. This is a battle of the superpowers.
Okay.
It's the U.S. and the national security of U.S. and the region and the national security of China.
So if Congressman Alejano again was daring you, pumunta doon, would you take on that challenge? Yes or no, sir? Would you even think about it? Would you consider it? Because you're saying they're liars, hindi ho ba?
Yeah, absolutely, they're liars. Fishermen can go there. Anyone can go
No,
there.
he's just saying you. Ikaw daw
Sorry.
po. Challenging you to go to Sandy Cay with
He wants
them.
to challenge me to go there para magkagulo because a foreign secretary of one is going there to claim.
So you wouldn't?
So if the Malaysian foreign minister, it won't be prudent for me to go.
All right,
But
we got the answer.
of 110 million Filipinos, maprove lang ba ako tama kung ako? Kung si Juan de la Cruz ang pumunta doon, hindi ba maprove din?
Okay,
And,
all right.
And he can. Pasasamahan ko siya.
We'll be taking another short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Cayetano, sir, the military plane in Davao. Where did they get clearance? Was it the CAAP? Please explain this to us.
Hindi lang tayo sanay. na meron Chinese plane na nagla-landing. 243 of these kinds of application from US planes were granted, 33 from Korean planes, and marami pa sa iba. And so far, only 2 or 3 sa Chinese planes. No? But all of this dumaan sa proper channels, including the military. So normal ito. It's may proseso, meron tayong permits, and may clearances from the
Sino
military.
nagbigay ng clearance, sir? Kaap talaga? Ito, dito sa Chinese.
Yung sinasabing CAAP DFA, kami yung final. But we cannot give that without the military. So in fact, when that happened, I called NSA and the SND, and they sent me all of the documents.
Yeah,
na
but di ba si
kompleto lahat.
Secretary Lorenzano he admitted that he found out belatedly?
Because it's routine.
Hindi ho ba pag military plane, please correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong, sir, dapat ang makakakuha sila ng approval from the Department of National Defense? Sir?
Yes, but it's routine. You have about 300 to 500 applications in a year at least.
Okay.
So it goes to our assistant secretaries or to certain
Baka hindi
generals,
umabot
then
sa kanya.
pipirma lang kami.
I see. Okay.
So, and dati naman kasi walang issue eh.
Sir, so yung 243, yung sinasabi niyo this is a normal occurrence, are you telling me that the US planes,
Lahat
the
to
Korean
military
planes, yes, Davao ho ba?
Iba-ibang places. May Clark, may Manila, may Davao.
Sa Davao po, ilan na ho?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, so I guess we...
But it's nothing irregular and it's nothing, there's nothing fishy about it. It's something that countries do with each other. Yung hero natin, no, yung pinatay sa Slovakia na,
Yes, sir.
na OFW, humihingi ngayon yung embassy nila ng clearance na makaland yung chinarter nilang plane.
Okay, all right. We really have to move on because ang dami po nagtatanong about the passport, sir. Ano ba nangyari kahapon? You had a press conference, 100,000 slots were available, pero parang nag-bog down na ho ba, sir?
Bottom line, there are much more applying for passports daily than the capability of DFA at napabayaan to in the past. When I became secretary, we were doing 10,500 a day. We're now doing 19,000 a day, and in a few months when we open our 6 new offices, we've already opened 2 this year, in Ilocos and in Isabela, we'll be doing 30,000 a day. So yesterday we opened 50,000 in the 12 noon and 50,000 at night. Something happened that the system crashed for a while.
It did, sir.
6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., I checked it again. It was, Asiana was open the whole July. Right before I entered your show, bukas yung October, September, pero wala. But every day we will open 5,000 more slots at lunch and at dinner. And with e-payment, we're expecting 95 to 100% na pupunta. Because before the e-payment,
Sir, kwento nyo nga
20 to
e-payment,
40%. Before the e-payment, nagtataka kami dahil people really want an appointment and they really need their passport. But how come 20 to 40% do not show up? So may sumasabotahe ba? May nagbebenta ba ng slots?
Yeah.
So what we did, ngayon, when you get your appointment,
Yeah.
you're given a number. You can just take it down or list it down. You go to any of the authorized bayad centers, no? And we have 6, 7 now, but we'll expand that more. So like 7-Eleven and some banks, no?
Yeah.
So when you pay, they give you a slip.
Yeah.
You go to your appointment, and supposedly, walang 30 minutes. Tapos yung process. Then, if it's expedited, we'll give it to you shorter. If it's no, then a week to 10 days.
So, yung regular is a week to 10 days, sir?
Yes.
Tama ho ba? Okay. Yung expedited, I guess, is 3 to 5.
I think expedited is 7 days, but more than 10 days ata. But as soon as we get it naman, we send it.
Sir, Kuwait and the Philippines, what's the latest there, sir?
The latest is I want to assure all of our OFWs, whether we do it quietly, whether we do it...
Don't do it na quietly,
Ashley.
sir. Sabihin nyo na kasi
No.
dami nagtatanong.
No, we will fight for the OFW. We will protect our citizens wherever they are. So sometimes the situations call that you do it quietly. Sometimes kailangan ang presidente mismo magsalita. No, minsan kailangan niyang i-document kasi pag hindi mo dinocument at mahuli yung nagre-rescue, siya pa makakasuhan. Sometimes you don't need to do it. So quietly, yung issue sa Kuwait, ilan? 3 rescues. Pero ilan lang nauwi? Mahigit 7,000.
Hindi yun, ano.
Diba?
Okay. All right. Very quickly, 2 last questions, sir. Yun ho bang sinasabing career diplomats asking you to resign? Ano ho ba talaga yung...
Fake news.
Fake news. All right.
Wala confirmed, walang letter sa or anywhere But since it was in the front page of a major daily, everyone assumed that
Yeah.
it was true.
Oo.
But I'm in their hands. If the majority of the career official wants me to
Sabi nyo nga, you
resign,
can
hindi
just-
ako magpipilit.
Okay, and then yung viral video nga po nung rescue, sinasabi nga po na this is also to prop up your possible candidacy. Ano ho ba talaga, sir?
How could it prop up? Unang-una, I'm not
Gone
a
wrong?
candidate. No, I'm not in the video. Di ba? And
Hindi ikaw yung
in fact, ang
nag-rescue.
tingin ng maraming sa publiko, it's OFWs is completely DOLE, OWA, POEA. They don't know that we share the responsibilities. And I was invited to go to Kuwait many times. I didn't go because I wanted the negotiations to show na tough ang DFA and until okay na yung negotiation. So I don't understand the premise that that video was for
Ginagamit para sa'yo.
for me.
Yeah. So, what are your political plans? Are you happy with the DFA? Do you plan to stay here for a while? Or you want to go back to the Senate or seek a higher post?
I want to have a successful stint in DFA, fix the passport, economic diplomacy, OFWs. Then we're organizing the 30th SIA Games
Okay.
and the Para Games 2019-2020. So after that, saka ako magpaplano. But before that, I want all of this to be successful.
Do you miss being a senator?
Yes.
Mas okay ho ba maging secretary? Last question, o senador? Mabilis
Depende
na.
sa time sa buhay mo.
Okay, mahirap. Matagal na sagot yan. Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano.
very
Sir,
much.
maraming
Belated
salamat sa
happy
iyo. At
birthday.
finally, thank you also. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.